Hello, botanists! We are continuing to study the parts of a plant. Last week we talked about the roots and the stem, and we're on to this part here. Do you remember what this is called? The leaves. Okay, so you're going to get out your parts of a plant book, and we'll open up the leaf flap, and we're going to write what the job of the leaves are. Does anybody remember the job of the leaves? Yeah. So the leaves are the part of the plant that absorbs sunlight and carbon dioxide, which is a gas in the air, and they use that in the process of creating food for the plant. So the leaves are like the food factory for the plant. So let's write there that the leaves, we'll just write that they make food. So we'll write make food. Okay. The leaves make food. Okay, so I'll put a picture of that in the newsletter so that you'll be able to see that if you want to copy it. But you're going to write those words in the flap, make food, because that's what the leaves do. Now I want to show you some pictures of leaves and talk about some characteristics of leaves. So in the newsletter, you'll see that there's a picture of leaves. And I hope that you started out by really looking and noticing things about those leaves. So what I ask for you to do is to just look at them and think of characteristics that they have in common and things that maybe are different between the different types of leaves. So I have them here, and we'll just look. There's this one and this one, and there's these two also. Okay, and now they're all pretty different, and there's different ways and different words that we use when we talk about leaves. So let's start out with this one, and let's look at this one. Okay, now they are pretty different types of leaves. So here's that one, and here's this one. Okay, now these we commonly refer to as needles. Okay, needles. And these are what we find on evergreen trees and conifers. So there's some needles that are long and some needles that are short. And these types of leaves that are flat and broad like this are called broadleaves. So there's broadleaves and needles. Okay? Broadleaves and needles. So if a plant has needles, it can grow in soil that maybe has less nutrients and maybe some harsher growing conditions, because usually when a plant has these needles, it's an evergreen tree, and it means it keeps them all year long and it doesn't lose them like broadleaf trees. Remember what happens in the fall? Yeah, they often lose their leaves. Yeah. So in the spring, they need a burst of energy and lots of nutrients to create a whole new set of leaves. So they need some more fertile soil. If you're keeping your needles all the time, you don't necessarily need that same burst of and supply of nutrients. So trees with needles can grow in conditions that aren't quite as great as the conditions for broadleaf trees. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen examples of broadleaf trees, flat broadleaves, and trees with needles. So that's one way to classify leaves into broadleaf and needles. Okay, the next way that we're going to talk about classifying leaves is by looking into this type of leaf and this type of leaf. Yeah, now I want you to see on these leaves, see the stem that goes down the middle? And then look at, there's a whole bunch of tiny leaves off of the stem. Now on this one, see the stem? There's the stem, and then there's one leaf. Okay, so when there's one leaf, we call it a simple leaf. And when there's many leaves all attached to that same stem, we call it a compound leaf. Okay? Compound leaf, simple leaf. What's this one? Okay, so that's another way of doing it. Let's look at these two. Okay. Okay, I want you to look around the edge of this one and look around the edge here. Okay, do you see how this one is jaggedy? And although this one goes in a little bit, the edge of it is smooth. Yeah, so this you would call a smooth leaf. And these we would call toothed, or serrated. Okay, so we'll call them toothed. So toothed leaves. See how they're jaggedy like that? Okay, that's a hard word for me to say. And then let's finally look at this leaf and this leaf. You've probably seen leaves that look like this before. These are maple leaves. And you can see how they go out and in, and out and in, out and in. And in between all these points, right, there's space. And it goes out, and then there's space. This is another example of that type of leaf. You can see it goes out, and then there's some space. Out, some space. Out, space. Out, space. So leaves like this that go out and have kind of like points around in parts and then space in between, they're called lobed. And a leaf like this that doesn't have that is called unlobed. So lobed, unlobed. Okay? And then this one, do you think this one is lobed or unlobed? Lobed, lobed, unlobed. Okay? So those are some of the words that we're going to use when we describe leaves. Okay, so we had needles. Okay. This is an example of a broadleaf. Okay, so needles are broadleaf. Needles are broadleaf. Okay, now I'm going to hold up lobed and unlobed, and you'll point to the lobed or the unlobed. Okay, so first point to the lobed leaf. Okay, now point to the unlobed leaf. Okay, great. Let's do compound leaf and simple leaf. Point to the compound leaf. Okay, point to the simple leaf. Okay. And we'll do smooth and toothed. Toothed. It's hard for me to say that. So point to the toothed leaf. And point to the smooth. Great. Okay, so I think you've got those categories down. So what I'm going to ask you to do today is to go on a scavenger hunt. I want you to go on a scavenger hunt around your neighborhood or in your yard to look for these types of leaves. And you'll have a paper that looks like this. And it says broadleaf. So I want you to find a broadleaf somewhere and draw a picture of it here. And then it says needles. So find some needles on a tree and draw a picture. Simple leaf, find a simple leaf and draw a picture. Compound leaf, and draw a picture of a compound leaf. Smooth leaf, and you'll draw a picture of a smooth leaf. Tooth leaf, and you'll draw a picture of one of those jaggedy leaves. Lobed leaf, draw a picture of the lobed leaf you find. And over here, unlobed leaf. Okay, so the words are written here. So you're going to need to try and be a detective. Have your family help you read those words if you need some help. Try and remember from the video. If you need to watch the video another time to remember the names of those leaves, you can. If you want to, you can draw a little picture next to each of those words so that you remember what it is as you go out on your hunt. And so you can either make your own paper like this, print out the one that I put in the newsletter. It's up to you, whichever you'd like to do. And then you're going to go out, hunt around. When you find an example of that type of leaf, I want you to draw a picture of it in the box. Okay? Should be a fun one. Okay, botanists, go have some fun on your leaf hunt.